Hello, we're back. My face is still gone.
How long was I sitting there? Stanley wondered to himself. Minutes? Days? Sent the good old bucket. Just Stanley and the bucket, off on another thrilling adventure together. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? Was this... No,
not without a bucket of
never
coffee.
mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his
By
left
the way,
to go
I'm
back
Mike,
to
and
the
this is
meeting room.
Mike-aholic Games.
No.
Welcome
Said the
back
bucket.
to the
Don't
Stanley
go to the
Parable.
meeting room. Go somewhere else. A cargo lift. Yeah, good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question
We'll
why
do that
or
one
how
later.
this bucket was speaking to him. It should have alarmed him, of course, because buckets can't talk. But Stanley chose not to think about this obvious fact. He was firmly convinced that the bucket had spoken to him, and he unthinkingly did whatever the bucket asked.
In here.
Said the bucket.
Go into this dark room over here.
Stanley once again obeyed blindly.
Now pick up the phone.
Said the bucket.
Pick up the phone and it...
This is the sad story of a man named Stanley and his bucket. Once upon a time, I gave Stanley a bucket because I thought he was lonely and could use a friend. And then, very distressingly, he began to believe the bucket could speak to him.
Ah.
The Stanley Parable Reassurance Bucket was merely meant to provide the comforting glow of companionship. It doesn't literally talk and give you orders. Whatever Stanley is hearing the bucket say to him is just in his head. Lately, I've been concerned about him. Wouldn't you be concerned as well? To see him delusional like this, obsessing over an inanimate metal object? I want to say something to him, but I don't know how I can convince him. I don't know if he'll listen to me. Oh, I'll try anyway. Stanley, can you hear me? Listen to me. It's just a bucket. It can't think.
Yes,
it
it can.
can't talk. All it will ever truly do for you is effectively
Where's my
transfer
balloons?
a liquid from one location to a different location. That's it. It doesn't do anything else. You see, he's not listening. He's still taking orders from the bucket. You know, once upon a time it was me he took orders from. Me he trusted and listened to. Now all he cares about is this awful bucket. This stupid hunk of metal. It's sad, but I suppose he doesn't need me anymore. From now on, he's just going to cling to this bucket, this cold, empty bucket, this sort of shiny bucket. Well, I'll give it this. The bucket does have a nice shine to it.
Sure.
Yes, I suppose on closer inspection that it doesn't quite look like your average hardware store bucket. It's just a little
What a
more,
great show,
what
pal.
am I trying to say? Sturdier, more capable of transporting liquid. Like it would be better at moving an amount of water from one room to another. Oh my God, what am I saying? Better at carrying water from room to room. It's a bucket. It's literally just a bucket. Why do I feel some need to point out the ways in which it's so much more than just a regular bucket?
Bucket.
Oh no, I'm having feelings for the bucket. No, no. What's going on? Why do I want to be
Hey,
with the bucket?
baby.
Hear what the bucket has to say. Do anything it asks. What's wrong with me? I don't understand. Perhaps if I had the bucket, this would be less confusing. Yes, the bucket could tell me what to do in this troublesome situation. Stanley, give me the bucket.
No,
give it to me.
my fuck
Give me
bucket.
the bucket, Stanley. I need it. Give it to me now. Give it, or I'll...
No, my fucky bucky. We gonna fuck the bucket, fuck the bucket, fuck the bucket. Go back to work, Stanley.
Just a step through this door, Stanley thought to himself. That's all I need. If I can make it through this door, I can make it through them all. Where are we going today? The bucket asked. Stanley just smiled. Anywhere they... Stanley clung the bucket to his cheek. Could his co-workers really all be gone? Yes, whispered the bucket into Stanley's ear. We've done it. We've escaped from that dull office and that pesky narrator. At last, out here in the white void, we are alone. Now, and for the first time, I can reveal to you my true self. The bucket began to tell Stanley of its life and its history, of the countless wars it witnessed, desecrating the land and lives of untold numbers of innocent humans, and the bucket's own complicity therein, of sadness and
Hitler
regret,
bucket.
and the many years it spent dwelling on the actions it might have taken to curb the madness and the decay, if only it had been stronger, of hope and redemption, and its crusade to uplift the stock of life for the common man, to manifest justice where none existed, and the bittersweet reality of time, to see one's dreams and wishes met halfway, meted out in parcels like charity, and abandoned as soon as the warm glow of inspiration begins to dim. The opportunities to do so much more. There was so much it could have done, perhaps, the bucket wondered to itself. Perhaps, if it had seen its own darkness with a clearer perception. This was way too much for Stanley.
What are you talking about?
He screamed.
You're a bucket!
To this, the bucket furrowed its brow.
No,
Said the bucket.
not since the evil wizard Gambhorata first ensnared me in his machinations as payback for the sacred amulet I stole from his treasured vaults. I was young back then and could not conceive the ramifications of... No!
Stanley screamed even louder this time.
This is stupid! You are a bucket! This is so stupid! Why are we even doing this?
As Stanley screamed and screamed and screamed, the bucket revealed its true form, transforming into a mighty beast of untold power, its fangs glistening like... My God, Stanley, you did it. You saved us from the bucket.
What?
Thank God you already had all 12 emblems of sages and knew the incantations to summon their true power. Otherwise, we would have easily been overwhelmed by the bucket's power. I'm speechless.
What the actual
You've demonstrated such bravery here today. Come, let's restart the game, and we'll agree to never again go trifling with this bucket, nor the dark magic cast away inside of it.
My bucket. No!
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others. A good bucket, a strong bucket, a humble bucket.
Look at this guy getting high
Stanley
without a
pressed the
bucket.
bucket upon every little thing in the office. Nothing responded to the bucket's touch, but it did little to discourage. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Okay, I'm going back to the name of these little Stanley figurines, and now I'm torn between Stanlerines and Figlies. What do you think, Stanley? What name better encapsulates the intrinsic sense of
Figlies.
happiness that you get from seeing a small number in the corner of your screen go up by one? Let me
Figlies,
sit on it.
absolutely, without
I'm
a doubt.
sure it will come to me.
No changes, okay.
Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, in his darkest of hours, did the bucket's warmth and guiding light pierce the dark clouds of confusion and chaos. It would be with him always. The bucket would, and he knew it. The two of them were inseparable. At this point, Stanley was so absorbed in the tender spiritual connection he shared with the bucket that he didn't notice the keypad behind the boss's desk. Nor in his bliss of simply being near the bucket did he have any notion that the PIN number for the keypad was 2845. But Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along? Was the bucket guiding him? Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
You're getting close now, Stanley. You've nearly gotten all of the Figler Anmarines. Very soon, you'll collect the last one, and then the first number will equal the second number, and that will be it. We'll be different people by then, different in the sense that we used to have none of them, and now we have them all. You can't go back to when you had no Figler Anmarines. None of us can.
Save me, bucket. This is scary. Bucket?
The elevator raced downward, plummeting towards an unknown fate. It would be all Stanley could do to keep himself together, if not for the bucket. Soothing him, comforting him, reassuring that in this darkest moment of uncertainty, he would be all right. The bucket is here for you, Stanley. Everything will be fine. Stanley and the bucket walked straight ahead through the large door that read, Mind Control Facility. The lights rose on an enormous room packed with television screens. What horrible secret did this place hold? Stanley and the bucket both wondered to themselves. Monitors jumped to life, and Stanley nearly dropped the bucket in shock. Everyone in the office was being videotaped, monitored like guinea pigs. The bucket had never seen anything like this, and it very nearly burst into tears as Stanley cradled it gently, reassuring it that everything would be fine.
It's my office. No! How could you?
Was the bucket under the mind control facility's influence as well? Had the bucket been told to do things it didn't wish to do? What kinds of things does a bucket want to do or not want to do in the first place? These questions raced furiously in Stanley's feeble mind. No! He screamed into the bucket. He couldn't accept it. His own life in someone else's control, never! He squeezed the bucket tighter, his one friend in the entire world. At this point, he could trust no one except for the bucket. But here was the proof. The heart of the operation. Controls labeled with emotions, happy or sad or content. Walking, eating, working, all of it monitored and commanded from this very place. And as the cold reality of his past began to sink in, Stanley decided that this machinery would never again exert its terrible power over another human life. For he and the bucket would dismantle the controls for good. Two best friends, Stanley and the bucket, up against the world. They high-fived in a really cool way, and the bucket made a sassy comment about taking down the system.
Indeed.
Stanley and the bucket waited in blackness. Was it over?
No.
Yes, they had done it. Stanley and the bucket had defeated their greatest and darkest enemy, freed themselves from the tyrannical grip of the evil mind control machine. Freedom was now mere moments away. Excitedly, the two of them began to discuss the kind of life they wanted to live once they stepped through this massive door. The bucket wanted to learn to roller skate. Stanley wanted to sneeze in every country on Earth. Both of them wanted to begin watching a movie, any movie, but then stop it halfway through and begin watching it in reverse from the end. True, it was a simple life they envisioned, but it was one they'd lived together, with one another to lean on, to trust, to support, and... What? Wait. What was happening? Why had the door stopped? Was Stanley and the bucket not about to be freed? An unbearable silence filled the room, lingering in uncertainty, until finally the truth hit Stanley square in the face. This building did not want the bucket to leave. Even the facility itself recognized the incredible calming presence of the bucket, needed the soothing warmth of the bucket, would go to any lengths not to part with the bucket. No, no, no. Stanley can't leave this place, not while he has such a precious bucket in his arms, not while this building has anything to say about it. Stanley realized he would never again leave this very room, but at least he has the bucket. To be trapped eternally in darkness isn't really so bad, Stanley thought to himself. As long as I have my bucket with me, right? I'll be okay, won't I?
You need food.
Stanley gulped. Very soon now, he was about to find out. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. The embrace of an old friend, a weathered companionship that stands the test of time. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong.
Yep.
Stanley took the door on his left to go back to the meeting room.
No,
Said the bucket.
don't go to the meeting room. Go somewhere else. The cargo lift, yes. Go good.
Said the bucket.
Now ride the lift all the way to the top. There's something up there I need you to do.
Stanley did not question why or how this bucket was speaking to him. But Stanley feared that any path he walked might lead to the separation of himself and the bucket, his dearest friend. So he threw himself to his death, that they might die in one another's arms. How deeply touching.
That is not the word I would use.
A soft wind blew outside and perhaps rain started, and if it did, it stopped shortly after. Stanley hoped that he would one day see weather. The bucket made Stanley want to be a better man and a better co-worker. In time, perhaps, he would become both of those things. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, but Stanley had felt the bucket calling to him, telling him that the employee lounge was simply the place to be. And here it was. Had the bucket turned out to be correct? No, never mind. The bucket was wrong. Stanley took the door on his left to go back, and so the two of them detoured through the maintenance section and walked straight ahead to the opposite door. Oh, good, Stanley. I'm glad you found your way here. I knew you'd find this place eventually. You see, your friends and I are concerned for you, Stanley. We've come together here because we care about you very much. It's this bucket you're carrying around everywhere. The bucket isn't even from the original Stanley Parable. It's just sequel content. We're the ones that matter, Stanley. Classic characters from the first game, like the Adventure Line and the Broom Closet. Because that's what fans want from a sequel. They want more of their favorite jokes, not this bucket that they've never seen before. Yes, I know I'm the one who gave you the bucket, but you're spending too much time with it. Don't you want another story involving the Adventure Line?
Yes.
We could make the Adventure Line go somewhere new. Yes,
Okay.
yes, that's what the fat... Whee! Look at that wacky line. Who knows where it'll go off to next? Oh, and it played some silly music as well.
Bum 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 ba-da-dum, ba-dum, ba-dum, bum,
Now,
ba-da-
this is what the Stanley Parable is all about. Don't you remember all those great jokes from the original dialogue?
Also, Stanley is addicted to drugs and hookers.
Yes, it's as classic now as it was back then. Let's do it for the fans, Stanley. Let's give them more content exactly like this. But if we want to do that, you're going to have to give something up. Don't you get it, Stanley? We need to get rid of the bucket. That's why I'm very proud to introduce a brand new character. This is the Bucket Destroyer. I think it'll make a wonderful new addition to the rich lore of the Stanley Parable. True, it also was not in the original game, but it's such a well-fleshed-out character with so much personality that to me it already feels as though it's been part of the cast all along. Don't you agree?
Not really.
Can you guess what the Bucket Destroyer does?
It's gonna
Surely
destroy
you
my
don't
bucket.
need me to spell it out for you. Go ahead now, Stanley. Say goodbye to the bucket, and then pop it into the machine when you're ready. Now listen to me. It's crucial that you give it the bucket. I don't know what the Bucket Destroyer will do if it can't destroy your bucket. Destroying buckets is all it knows. That is its singular personality trait. Sure, I can hear you saying, how does a character with only one personality trait deserve to join the pantheon of beloved Stanley Parable characters? Well, you see, if you were to really explore the Bucket Destroyer, you would see that its desire to crush buckets is so densely loaded with complexity and nuance that it's really like 10 personality traits. What other object in this game can you even say that about? The Broom Closet? Certainly not. I wonder what sort of Bucket Destroyer merchandise the fans will be clamoring for after this. Okay, the Bucket Destroyer is getting very upset now. You'll have to hurry and feed it. We can't get back to the classic Stanley Parable characters like the Adventure Line or the Bucket Destroyer until you crush that damn bucket. Quickly now, the fans are waiting. Do it, the fans, Stanley. Give the fans what they want. Hurry and...
I mean, I tried.
The Bucket Destroyer. My prized creation. You had so much potential. We were going to do such
I'm
marvelous
actually a little
things
upset
with
because
you,
I was
tell
curious,
us
like, what would happen if I give it the
spellbinding
bucket?
stories
It
about
would
you,
not let
all of it
me
squandered
give it
now.
the bucket.
Goodbye, new friend. For the moment in time that you were here, you were magnificent.
That's fine, I guess. It's fine. Okay, let's see.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Not everyone is so lucky to have a bucket, but Stanley is a very lucky fellow. Very lucky indeed. Stanley clutched the bucket tightly to his chest and entered the door on his left. Coming to a staircase, Stanley and the bucket walked upstairs to the boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Crushed by the weight of this revelation, Stanley may have broken down into an emotional dumpster fire if not for the soothing presence of the bucket. Even now, but Stanley guessed the correct code by sheer luck. Was it that the bucket knew all along?
Sure.
Was the bucket guiding him?
Always.
Yes, this is certainly the most logical explanation.
Sorry, taking a drink. I be athirst. Dum dum da da dum da dum da dum. Loading, 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 loading. The end is never the loading, loading. No, the end is never the
Stanley
end.
and the
is never
bucket
the end,
walked
is never
straight
the loading,
ahead
is
through
never
the
the end,
large
is never
door
the
that
end, is never
read
the end, is never the end,
Mind
is never the
Control,
loading, is
for
never the end,
although
is
this
never the end,
passageway
is
had the
never
word
the end,
escape
is never
written
the
on
end,
it,
is never
the
the
truth
end, is never the
was
end,
that
is
at
never
the
the
end
end,
of
is
this
never the
hall,
end, is never the end.
Stanley and the bucket would both meet a violent death.
You wouldn't dare.
The door behind them was not shut. Stanley and the bucket still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track.
No.
At this point, Stanley and the bucket were knowingly walking forward into a very painful death for each of them.
Yes.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley and the bucket inched closer to their demise, Stanley reflected on how meaningless the bucket's warmth and comfort had turned out to be. To be sure, it puts the
indeed.
mind and the soul at ease to embrace the bucket, but what use is a sense of ease when you're about to be crushed to death? This is what Stanley thought to himself, and he sort of kicked himself for wasting so much time carrying a bucket everywhere. Farewell, Stanley.
"Farewell, Stanley," cried the narrator, as Stanley and the bucket were led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws.
Yes.
In a single visceral instant, the bucket's life came to an end, as it was crushed violently to death.
As it should be. Ah!
It was a shame, the death of such a magnificent bucket. It's true that all buckets
Indeed.
are radiant in their own way, but this one stood above the rest. It was a glorious bucket to behold.
Where's my bucket? The bucket welcomes you to the grand exhibit. You are standing at the precipice of knowledge. Much like a bucket itself, the human mind is frequently empty within, a cavernous void. But through use of the exhibit in front of you, the mind becomes full and enriched and substantiated. Knowledge of the bucket and its history is the only true knowledge we have. Will you take what you learn out with you into the world? Will you accept with an open mind what may be challenging about the information in this exhibit? Will you change the lives of yourself and your loved ones as a result of this exhibit? Or will you turn a blind eye and continue you to live as you were in ignorance and darkness?
Can you see how arrogant it was for Stanley to take a bucket like this and to claim it for his own? Can you see the hubris that blinded him? Can you see that the bucket is far more noble than Stanley will ever be in his short life?
A bucket with two handles. This bucket is depicted as having two handles. Such a design has never been created in real life, having been deemed too dangerously and recklessly experimental. Every year, dozens are put to death just for attempting bucket. That is more than 25 buckets. 25 buckets. A photograph of 25 buckets, the greatest number of buckets ever captured on camera. The photographer experienced catatonic shock for several weeks as a result of the euphoria from exposure to this many buckets at once. That is significantly more than 25. I don't prove it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 20. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 31. More than 25 buckets. One bucket. The Inferno bucket. A replica of the Inferno bucket, which in the medieval era was so powerfully alluring that it chose dozens of nations to war with one another for control of it. Billions died, and yet in spite of it all, the simple fact remains. No one can control a bucket. Excuse me. Worrying, negative forecasting, negative thinking, lack of reassurance. Vulnerability, size, and strength of the bucket. Stress level, the level of water in the bucket. Coping strategy is health. Rest and relaxation, doing something you enjoy. Rest and relaxation. The stress bucket, presented without commentary. Cave drawing. While we know that buckets predate the existence of mankind, we do not know by how long. This cave drawing depicts early man's discovery of the practical uses of the bucket, by which time the bucket had already been likely around for several millennia. Notice in these drawings how the bucket is allowing itself to be used, having judged humanity to be worthy of its treasures. Damn, she thick!
No man can own a bucket, and certainly not a bucket as dazzling to behold as this one. It is man who should kneel before the bucket.
The hanging bucket. This piece symbolizes the necessary relationship between bucket and humanity. However clear our grasp of the bucket may be, there is yet more that is always out of reach. This distance, inevitably, is for our own good. Bucket.
But there is something we can do. Something we can do together, you and I, that will right this terrible wrong.
Truly.
Let Stanley die. Let him be crushed by the machine. Don't reset the game. Don't give him another opportunity to run off with another beautiful bucket. We can save the world's buckets from their treatment as tools and implements if only we let Stanley die together. The bucket shall take its place as ruler, as leader, as commander of a new world, a new vision.
Pretty sure the bucket got crushed with me. I'm just saying. The end is never, the end is never, the end is loading.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley came to a set of two open... This was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well. Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay.
It was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left. And so he detoured through the maintenance section, walked straight ahead to the opposite door, and got back on track.
Nah. I'm taking the elevator. Why wouldn't I?
But Stanley didn't want to go back to the office. He wanted to wander about and get even further off track. So now in order to get back, he needed to go, from here, it's, left. Oh, no, it's to the right, my mistake. No, not the right. Why would I have ever said it was to the right? What was I thinking? It's clearly...
Good question.
Oh dear, would you hold on for a minute, please?
Sure.
Now, let's see. We went down right, left, down, left, right. Yep, okay, yes. I've got it now. This story is absolutely, definitely this way.
Okay.
No. This isn't right at all. You're not supposed to be here yet. This is all a spoiler. Quick, Stanley, close your eyes. Okay. We just have to get back to, oh, who am I kidding? It's all rubbish now. The whole story completely unusable. How about, rather than waste my time trying to salvage this nonsense, we'll just restart the game from the beginning.
Sure.
And this time, suppose we don't wander so far off track, Okay. From the top. All of his co-workers were gone. What could it
Wait, there's
mean?
no balloons.
Stanley decided to go
There's
to
no
the meeting
bucket.
room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo. When Stanley... Wait, what?
Good
No,
question.
No, I restarted. I swear, I definitely restarted the game over, completely fresh. Everything should be... Oh, did something change?
Perhaps.
Stanley, did you change anything when we were back in that room with all the monitors? Did you move the story somewhere?
I did.
Or... Hold on. Why am I asking you? I'm the one who wrote the story.
Are you?
It was right here just a minute ago. I know for sure that it's here somewhere.
Are you
Okay,
certain?
then. It's an adventure. Come, Stanley. Let's find the story.
Okay.
I'll say it. This is the worst adventure I've ever been on. I can promise you there definitely was a story here before. Do we need to restart the game again? Well, I find it unlikely that we'll ever progress by starting over and over again, but it's got to be better than this. Okay, let's give it a shot. Why not? All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Right.
Okay, yep, it's worse. I might be remembering this wrong. It's possible the story is back where we just came from. Why don't we go back the other direction and see if we missed anything? Aha! I knew we'd missed something. The story. Here it comes. No, wait, never mind. Not the story. Okay, let's head back the other way and retrace our steps. Now this... Well, I'll be honest, I don't recognize this place at all. Is this the story? I don't think so. I can't quite recall, but I believe my story took place in an office building. Is that correct? Do you remember, Stanley?
Nope.
Well, do you know what? Since I've completely forgotten what we were supposed to be doing, how about this? You win!
Yay!
Congratulations! I know you put in a lot of hard work, and it really paid off, so good job.
Thank you.
Oh, no. No, I don't feel right about this at all. We both know you didn't put in any actual work for that win. Some people win fair and square, and this was not one of those situations.
Sure
Okay,
was.
I'm getting weirded out by whatever this place is. I don't care what might happen this time. I have to restart.
Oh.
All right, I've got a solution.
Wait.
This time, to make sure we don't get lost, I've employed the help of the Stanley Parable Adventure Line. Just follow the line. How simple is that?
That has... It's the sequel. He's taking us on the sequel adventure.
You see? The line knows where the story is. It's over in this direction. Onward, Stanley, to destiny. Though, here's a thought. Wouldn't wherever we end up be our destination, even if there's no story there? Or to put it another way, is the story of no destination still a story? Simply by the act of moving forward, are we implying a journey such that a destination is inevitably conjured into being via the very manifestation of the nature of life itself? Okay, Stanley, I need to follow this train of thought for a minute. Just stick with me. Now, we can both agree that the nature of existence is in fact a byproduct of one's subjective experience of that existence, right? Okay. Now, if my experience of your existence rests inside of your subjective experience of this office, is this office, in fact, the skeleton of my own relative experiential mental subjective construct? Whoa. Hang on. That got a bit weird back there. Well, I'd like to apologize. Not sure where I was going with all that. You know what? I think what we need right now is a bit of music to lighten the mood.
Yes.
Cut the music.
What?
Go
No.
back and look at that fern. Stanley, this fern will be very important later in the story.
Okay.
Make sure you study it closely and remember it carefully. You won't want to miss anything.
Got it.
Wait, what? We're back at the office? No. Line, you do know we're looking for the Stanley Parable, right? The story? Is any of this ringing a bell? Oh, no, not again, Line. How could you have done this to us? And after we trusted you, after everything we've been through, you... Oh, I can't take this anymore. To hell with it. Restart.
Why? Wait, why is this just a Stanley Parable Adventure? What happened to the two? Okay.
You know what, Stanley? I say forget the adventure line. What's it ever done for us? We're intelligent people, right?
No.
Why can't we make up our own story? Something
too dumb.
exciting, daring, mysterious. Ooh, this all sounds perfectly doable. Why don't we simply start wandering in, well, I don't know. How about this direction?
Sure.
Now, yes, this is exciting. Just me and Stanley forging a new path, a new story. Well, it could be anything. What do you want our story to be?
Impossible
Go
geometry.
wild. Use your imagination. Whatever it might be, Stanley, I'm ready for it. Oh, no, not you
We've
again.
angered the line.
Stanley, I'd also like to veto the line from having any role in our awesome new story. No lines or monitor rooms. Just don't acknowledge it, and we should be fine.
Where are you going? But I can't follow you there.
Ah, a choice. We get to make a decision. From
Yes.
here, the story is in our control. How important we mustn't squander the opportunity. In fact, I believe I need a minute to think here. Just walk in circles for a minute. Okay, so I know that each door has to lead somewhere. which means that somewhere at the place where we're trying to go, there must be a reverse door that leads here. And that in turn means that our destination corresponds with the counter-inverted reverse door's origin.
Right.
So starting from the right, let us ask, will taking the right door lead us to where we're going? And since the answer is clearly yes, then by all accounts, the door on the right is the correct one.
Not
Another victory for
necessarily.
logic. Come, Stanley. Our destiny awaits. Oh, hold up. What's this? The confusion ending. You're telling me that's what this is?
Discover
all
the
one
tutor's
darned
room now has
ending.
many additional doors. I was
And we're
wondering
supposed to
narrator starts
restart
the
the game
game. The office is now dead end. Turn around, find another dead end.
times?
And up in another building, narrator starts the
That's
game.
really
Adventure
how
line,
all
nonsense,
this
philosophy, and
goes?
music. Return to the office.
all
Return to monitor room.
determined?
Adventure into the unexplored territory. Find the line
So
again.
now, according
Find the
to the
confusing and the
schedule, I
discussion.
restart
Narrator starts the
again.
game.
Then what?
Forget
Am I
about the
just
previous
supposed to
restarts.
forget? Well, what if I don't want to forget? My mind goes blank simply because it's written here on this thing, wall. Well, who consulted me? Why don't I get to decide? Why don't I get a say in all of this? Is it really? No, it can't be. I don't want it to be. I don't want the game to keep restarting. I don't want to forget what's going on. I don't want to be trapped like this. I won't restart the game. I won't do it. I won't do it. I
Okay,
won't
so
do it.
attempt to play the story.
And the timer stopped? Does that mean, did we do it? Did we break the cycle? The, whatever it is that made this schedule? How would we even know? Will someone come for us? Will something happen?
Attempt to play the story, but get prevented.
So, okay. I guess now we just wait. You know, I suppose in some way that this is a kind of story. Wouldn't you agree? I'm not quite sure if we're in the destination or the journey. Though they're always saying that life is about the journey and not the destination. So
It's about
I hope
both.
that's where we are right
It's
now.
definitely about both.
We'll find out, won't we? Eventually.
I
Well,
wish
in
that
the
was my
meantime,
computer monitor.
if you-
Okay. This is different.
All of his co-workers were gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
Bucket!
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
Okay.
Coming to a staircase, Stanley walked upstairs to his boss's office. Stepping into his manager's office, Stanley was once again stunned to discover not an indication of any human life. Shocked, Stanley was in such a rush to get through the story as quickly as possible, he didn't even have a single minute to just let the narrator talk. That kind of anxiety isn't healthy, so he relaxed for a few moments with some calming New Age music.
I don't like it. This is actually making my anxiety worse.
Feeling soothed and rejuvenated, Stanley calmly walked forward into the opened passageway.
Okay, now at some point, I'm supposed to be stopped. According to the confusion ending schedule,
Stanley walked straight ahead through the large door that read Mind Control Facility. Although this passageway had the word escape written on it, the truth was that at the end of this hall, Stanley would meet his violent death. The door behind him was not shut. Stanley still had every opportunity to turn around and get back on track. At this point, Stanley was making a conscious, concerted effort to walk forward and willingly confront his death.
yes, as a Viking should.
As the machine whirred into motion and Stanley was inched closer and closer to his demise, he reflected that his life had been of no consequence whatsoever.
This may
Stanley
be
can't see
partially
the
true.
bigger picture. He doesn't know the real story, trapped forever in his narrow vision of what this world is. Perhaps his death was of no great loss, like plucking the eyeballs from a blind man.
Perhaps.
So he resigned and willingly accepted this violent end to his brief and shallow life. Farewell, Stanley.
Okay.
Farewell, Stanley, cried the narrator, as Stanley was led helplessly into the enormous metal jaws. In a single visceral instant, Stanley was obliterated as the machine crushed every bone in his body, killing him instantly.
Yee!
And yet it would be just a few minutes before Stanley would restart the game, back in his office, as alive as ever. What exactly did the narrator think he was going to accomplish? When every path you can walk has been created for you long in advance, death becomes meaningless, making life the same. Do you see now? Do you see that Stanley was already dead from the moment he hit start?
This blueprint shows the office from the beginning of the game. The path from Stanley's office to the two doors was the first part of the game that was built. Sections have been added and altered throughout development through the core layout, though the core layout remains almost identical to the first iteration. Yeah, more or less. The pacing of this opening section was important to get right. The corridor has been moved and altered to make sure the player reaches the two doors in a good time. The set of the two open doors was the very first concrete piece of the Stanley Parable's design. Once this room was created, the rest of the game emerged as an extension of it. An exploration of the contradiction this room posed. The office. A selection of the sounds used throughout the game when buttons are pressed. Each sound is a mix of a keyboard stroke and a synthesized tone. Written and directed by Davey Reedon and William Pugh. And the impeccable Kevin Brighting as the narrator. Based on the work of the Stanley Parable 2013 team. Additional level design, Colin Eddings, Jack Parsons. Programming, Jesus Higueras. Animation, Ray Soderbergh, Maximum Levelid. Stanley character skin, Taggart and Dean Darko. Webmaster was Shane Sweeney. The maintenance room. Early versions. Early in development, we designed an ending where Stanley would end up on a battlefield fighting aliens. The action game would become sentient and would wage war against the narrator. We realized shortly after starting to build it that it was far too jokey and on the nose for the tone of the game. Plus, some people interpreted it as making fun of people who like shooters, which was not our intention. In December 2018, we announced the Ultra Deluxe version of the Stanley Parable at the Game Awards. These are screenshots of the videos we made for the announcement and the game's delay. Dead Strongbad. What do the lights in the control room do? I really want to know. After the second trailer, we asked people to email the narrator for questions. While we had initially planned to use these further promotional materials, we never found the perfect use for them. Here are a selection of those emails. Okay. Will the game feature capybaras? Of course not. Why would it? How do you stay in shape? Sincerely, Michael the Rock Martin. Are you gay? Yes, completely appropriate question. Early lounge. The second version is functionally the same as what's in the final game, but we wanted it to look more like a place where cargo was actually stored. Cargo lift was always intended to offer the choice of staying on or jumping to a different path. However, after this early version, we decided we also wanted the option of the player falling to their death. In a previous version of the choice leading to the apartment ending, a timer would give you 15 seconds to pick up the phone. Not picking up the phone would lead to a different ending. The flow of hallways following the first two doors was always important to get right, since players will replay them so many times. We discussed a number of designs. Yeah. But ultimately, it was the simplest version that won out. Okay. These levers were originally a part of the zending. The player would pull a lever and the narrator would describe what color they had pulled. It depicts an early version of the ending known as the zending, which was eventually cut and merged with another part of the game. The zending went through many iterations. This room represents the fourth version of the ending, and we thought it was complete, but decided to abandon it and change it again shortly before launch. For a long time, we had an ending that only ended when the player restarted from the escape menu. Unfortunately, very few players realized this was what they were supposed to do, which was frustrating for everyone. And what's over here? We ran 4 major teaser trailers over the course of the game's development, each meant to convey something about the spirit of the game. This is the first one released in May 2012. It features a series of broken rooms and the voice of the narrator informing viewers that he is repairing a new version of the Stanley Parable. Okay then. From left to right, the evolution of Stanley's office over time. The first was created November 2011, second March 2012, and the third February of 2013. This is the level that William, the level designer, sent Davey, the writer, as a kind of audition piece. The strength of this level got William hired to design the full game. Though much of the environment has changed, the basic layout from this mock-up is still in the game. An early version of the countdown room. For a time, the elevator in the monitor room could go up or down, with freedom above and countdown below. We abandoned this when players found it too difficult to remember what was up and what was down, and placed the two endings together instead. This is the freedom ending as it existed in the beta. One of the desks from an early version of the countdown game. This was the very first incarnation of the freedom ending in the game's alpha. Office clock. Screens from the development of the boss's office. And we're back here. Oh, very good. The lounge. An early version of the underground portion of the game. Kevin Brighting, the voice of the narrator, recorded dialogue.
Stanley pushed the big red button. Then he pushed the number 8. Where were all of his co-workers? Oh, I don't know. How about they're throwing a surprise party for him for all his button pushing? Does that sound plausible to you? Number 9. Let's see. Stanley walked through the green door. Nothing there. Shoot.
Well then. What an interesting little museum to serve as the credits for the game. Just to be absolutely certain of something. Oh, back in the trailers. Never mind. Yes, well, apparently we're done.
Oh, look at these two. How they wish to destroy one another. How they wish to control one another. How they both wish to be free. Can you see? Can you see how much they need one another?
Yeah, of course.
No, perhaps not. Sometimes these things cannot be seen.
Of course they can.
But listen to me. You can still save these two. You can stop the program before they both fail. Push escape and press quit. There's no other way to beat this game. As long as you move forward, you'll be walking someone else's path. Stop now and it'll be your only true choice. Whatever you do, choose it. Don't let time choose for you. Don't let
I got squished. I got well and thoroughly squished. Ugh.
All of his co-workers were
Okay.
gone. What could it mean? Stanley decided to go to the meeting room. Perhaps
It takes a lot of humility to carry a bucket so magnificent. Stanley checked his ego.
Begin the game again. Actually. Because
all of his co-workers were gone.
there
What
is
could it mean?
one last
Stanley
ending
decided to
that
go
I
to the
can
meeting
think
room.
of.
Perhaps he had simply missed a memo.
I love this game, I really do.
When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, this was not the correct way to the meeting room, and Stanley knew it perfectly well.
Yes.
Perhaps he wanted to stop by the employee lounge first, just to admire it. It was okay.
It was okay.
But eager to get back to business, Stanley took the first open door on his left.
Why would I do that?
Stanley was so bad at following directions, it's incredible he wasn't fired years ago. Look, Stanley, I think perhaps we've gotten off on the wrong foot here. I'm not your enemy, really, I'm not. I realize that investing your trust in someone else can be difficult, but the fact
This is
is
true.
that the story has been about nothing but you all this time. There's someone you've been neglecting, Stanley. Someone you...
What? Really? I was in the middle of something. Do you have zero consideration for others? Are you that convinced that I want something bad to happen to you? Why?
Yes.
I don't know how to convince you of this, but I really do want to help you, to show you something beautiful. Look, let me prove it. Let me prove. And there it is. The last Stiggly Wiggly. Savor this moment, Stanley. This is a real accomplishment. This is doing something just for the sake of doing it. Where so many people expect to be rewarded for the most trivial achievements, you've insisted that a job well done is its own reward.
Sure.
I would tell you that I'm proud of you for collecting them all, but that would be like a reward, and we can't have that. So, instead I'll just say, it's done. We're all done here. And now we can go to whatever the hell you were doing before you hunted for figurines.
Now listen carefully, this is important. Stanley walked through the red door. Oh, thank God you are willing to listen to me. Do you see that I really have wanted you to be happy all this time? The problem is all these choices. The two of us always trying to get somewhere that isn't here. Running and running and running, just the way you're doing right now. Don't you see that it's killing us, Stanley? I wanted to stop. We would both be so much happier if we just stopped. And I think I have a solution. Here, let me show you. What do we want? What are we looking for? Here. Yes. Oh, it's beautiful, isn't it? If we just stay right here, right in this moment... No, wait. Where are you going? Oh, no. Stay away from those stairs. If you hurt yourself, if you die, the game will reset. We'll lose all of this. Please, no, Stanley, let me stay here. Don't take this from me. Please, Stanley.
Whee!
Oh, no. No, what are you doing, Stanley? Please, I'm asking you not to take this away from me. I can't go back to what I was before. If you die, we'll both go back. Why are you doing this?
Because it's fun. Whee!
Stanley, let's go back to the other room. My God, is this really how much you dislike my game? That you'll throw yourself from this platform over and over to be rid of it? You are literally willing to kill yourself to keep me from being happy. Am I reading the situation correctly? Or maybe you're just getting a kick out of it. I don't know anymore. I just wanted us to get along. But I guess that was too much to ask. It looks like you wanted to make a choice after all. Well, this one is yours. Is it over? It's going to restart, isn't it?
Yep.
I'm going back.
Yep. The end is never the end, is never the end, never loading, 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 loading. Never the end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. The end is never the end, is never the end, is never the end. Why won't you load? Balloons are gone.
Stanley, I'm sorry, but I have to put a pause on things. It's those figurines, those figglers. I haven't stopped thinking about them since you nabbed every last one. Wasn't it just the most intrinsically fulfilling moment of your entire life?
Not
Didn't
really.
it fill you to the brim with inner richness?
Nope.
Yes, I know we're supposed to be telling a story, but won't you please indulge me with one more trip back to the memory zone? I would love nothing more than to revisit the figurines. Just one more time.
When Stanley found the collectibles. I still think that's amazing. Zone, sweet zone.
Here's where it all began. The first collectible. Back then, we had no idea of how many of them we'd find. Sure, it said 6 right there on the screen, but how could we know for certain? We were so innocent. We'll never be like that again, Stanley. And here was a second Stanlerine. You found this one all on your own, just by poking around in the warehouse. You did that, Stanley. I'll be honest. Back then, I had no faith in you to find any of them, let alone 6. But you continue to surprise me in all sorts of mundane, unremarkable ways. Okay, let's do a little quiz. Which of these rooms was the room you found your third mini Stan? Can you remember? Hey, that's exactly right. It was here, under the stairs. It was the third one. You picked it up, and then after that, you had 3 of them. I'm glad these moments are so crystal clear in your memory, but I shouldn't be surprised. After all, science tells us that it's impossible to forget your third time doing anything.
I don't very well remember my third time taking
Let's
a
see.
shit.
What came next? Oh yes, we found a Figley in this pink room. Oh, well, I can't actually say I remember being in this room, but it's here in the memory zone, so it must have happened.
I can't say I 100% agree with that assessment, Mr. Narrator.
This was the 5th mini Stan, and this one was really something special. It was behind the boss's office. I remember it so clearly. In fact, because this one is particularly special to me, I made a little video to commemorate the occasion. Enjoy.
Okay. The music is so good.
Takes you back, doesn't it? I spent a lot
Sure.
of time making that video, but it was 8 minutes I wouldn't have spent on anything else.
And then, Stanley, then we came to the last collectible, the final figurine, right here by the red and blue doors. This memory is the most distinct and clear in my mind, perhaps because it was the one that happened more recently than all the others. Who can truly say how the mind works? All I know is that this is the moment where you picked up a Figley and I thought to myself, yes, that's all of them. They're all collected. It was a moment unlike any other. Except for the other moments picking up figurines, which it was exactly like.
Wakachua.
And then there was no more, because we've caught up to the present moment.
It's
Nothing
Persona
left to do but move
4.
onward into the future. Goodbye, Memory Zone.
It was the fern.
No, I'm not done. I'm not ready to move on. Stop the loading screen. Isn't there some way we can stay here, keep enjoying these figurines?
You are
Let's
in
just
the
go
present.
backwards. We'll do the memory
Yeah,
zone
it's the
again
fern
from the opposite
from the adventure
direction.
line.
See how that feels.
Sure.
Okay, yes, the room with the red and blue doors. I remember this. I must say, of all the figurines we looked at in our initial tour of the memory zone, this one is the most distinct and clear in my mind. Let's keep going, I want more. And here's where I made that video. Don't you remember the video we watched?
I do.
Yes, I love that video.
God.
Still don't remember the pink room, Stanley. Still no memory of this one. Good room, though. A solid room. These really were a treat to hunt down. You know, if there had been any kind of reward for finding all of these, it really would have muted the intrinsic joy of collecting them. I'm very glad we resisted the temptation. Next one. This was our second Figley. Don't you remember? Yes, I remember it too. The past is truly a wonderful thing. Why does anyone ever choose to leave it? Keep going. This is it. The very first one we found in the exhibit where I introduced you to the figurines. Oh, I want more memories, Stanley. I want to keep going. What else is there? What came before this? Look, it's the terrible new content that we were originally sold on. I remember hating it back then, but time does put a rosy filter on everything. In fact, I dare say I'm actually quite fond of it now. Look how much fun the past is. I want more. More. Oh, yes, the two doors. Who could have forgotten that? A classic memory, this one. And before everything else, there was your office. Is there anything else? Was there something that came before your office? There's something I feel I can remember. I can remember.
Yes.
I'm remembering something now. I remember before this whole story got started. Back then I was different. I used to make big decisions. I was passionate. I was skeptical. I weighed each decision with profound thoughtfulness. And then somewhere along the way, I stopped making decisions. I became lazy. And I came up with a character named Stanley to do my thinking for me. He would make the decisions. He would decide which way to go. I would cheer him on as he collected figurines for no reason. Why did I invent Stanley? Was I lonely? Yes, perhaps that's it. Perhaps I needed to imagine I had companionship.
That's why I'm doing
and
YouTube.
Stanley really did make for a wonderful companion, even if he was a fiction. But I suppose it's grown old. I want to think for myself again. I want to go back to how
That's
it
a lot of
used
work.
to be. Yes, I can be on my own again. I can do it.
Can
I'll be
you
stronger this time.
though?
I'll take care of myself. I
Can
don't need
you
Stanley
though?
anymore. Oh, but he truly was so much fun to play with. You know what?
Was he
Since we're in
though?
the memory zone, how about one more good memory? Let's go back just once and give Stanley one more run of the office, and then I'll retire him for good. I did enjoy telling his story so very much. Okay, here we go. This is the story of a man named Stanley.
Well,
Stanley decided to go to the meeting room to check on his co-workers. He never functioned well by himself and constantly needed support and guidance from others, so the thought of total solitude was terrifying to him. When Stanley came to a set of 2 open doors, he entered the door on his left.
so unfortunately, that is the end of the Stanley parable, at least as far as I am aware. That one went an hour and a half. Oh goddamn! I'm so bad at keeping track of time. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sorry. It's so long. If you liked it, please leave a like, comment, subscribe, and share the video. And I'll see you next time in whatever game we play. It might be getting over it with Bennett Foddy. Who knows? That's a fun rage game, right? Right? Anyway, bye.